Hello and welcome to Guna Pavilion, and it's Eddie here, and the season has ended. The 2024-25 season has ended, and Arsenal finished the season empty-handed, no trophies. And it's been a long, exhausting season. And I've been meaning to just jump on here and have a bit of a reflection of the season. But that's not what we're gonna do today. Today is gonna be looking at the transfer chaos. And I know a lot of people are still feeling salty about the semi-final loss to PSG. Honestly, I still think about what could have been for Arsenal being so close, but it is a reflection of Arsenal in the last couple of years. We've been so close, almost tasting it and getting it snatched, right from under our feet. So I think emotionally that's tough, but part of being a football fan is, changing focus very quickly. You finish one game, you've got to leave that emotion aside and look to support your team in the next game. And I think that's where we are right now. It's the off season right now, and now it's all about who's going, who's coming in, who's Arsenal running after. We're going to break it all down in our podcast series, and I'm hoping I can do this a little bit more every week. So we'll look into the transfer stories, have a pulse as to, what's real, what's not, who do we want to see at Arsenal. And I would love to all get you guys participate as well. So, hit that like and subscribe button if you love the channel. Don't forget to pass this on. So we're gonna start obviously with Leroy Sané. So it's the same Sané who was with Manchester City in the Premier League a couple of years ago, and rumor says that Arsenal are sniffing around, and maybe we might just be able to get him from Bayern. But this is one of those. He's 29, so um, excuse me, and the story is suggesting that he's looking for a bumper wage. And we've been here before. There are lots of players that we hear things like this, where at the end of the day they end up staying with the club because this was all a ploy by the agent to try and up their negotiating tactics by linking a story about a big club potentially going for one of their players just to increase the value of the player. So I think this one might be theatre, might be a little bit of a rumor. Do I see him coming into Arsenal, fitting in the red and white? Yeah, I could see that. I could potentially see that, but I don't think it's a transfer that we can really, really hope on. If that really comes, then I hope that is not a similar case of what happened with Raheem Sterling because we really got the short end of the stick with that particular one. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, transfer that is going around the news, and that's Benjamin Sesko. 80 million man. I think this is what's being reported as the potential going fee. Now, I do like the prospect of Benjamin Sesko is playing in the Bundesliga, which has a bit more credibility, and you would think that that would make him a little bit more ready. But I think that money is should be for a player that's going to hit the ground running, right? That looks to me that we're spending 80 million on potential, right? And potential is great, but I think we're in the win now mode in Arsenal. This is not about, winning in the next 2 or 3 years. We built a squad now that can compete against any team in the league. I think we can beat any team in the league right now. And so, don't get me wrong, I would love to see him. But 80 million, I need him to be scoring instant goals. And a quick story here, a friend of mine double booked for a dinner and a North London derby game. And he arrives, at the restaurant, before he could sit down, Arsenal were 2 goals up. You might remember this game, Saka scoring, as well. And for me, that's the sort of thing that I'm expecting, from Sesko. Quick goals, early goals, statement wins. Is he really up for that? Let me know in your comments what you guys think about that potential transfer to Arsenal. Now, let's talk about the one that's got everyone absolutely going crazy. Is he in? Is he out? 1 minute he's decided, the next minute he's not sure. And of course, I'm talking about Zubimendi. Um, I love his style. I think he comes into Arsenal, he would free up Rice, really, really strengthen that spine. But at the end of the day, if he's not keen to come to Arsenal, then we're not begging anyone to come to Arsenal. This was a
Mm.
transfer that everyone thought was, done, back in January. And this is, it gives me deja vu, about the Wenger days. We used to have links to lots of players, and then the media builds them up. Arsenal are close, and then they now turn around and say, well, he's not in for Arsenal. And these are games that the media play. They do it all the time. They know that Arsenal fans, if you want to get your story out there, just tag something to Arsenal. It's always been that way. Arsenal moves the needle. So just have to be careful about some of this, rumors out there because until it's done, it's very difficult. Unless, I mean, this is probably a frustrating thing because other teams, they get their transfers done, but we hope it is a new regime in Arsenal. But I think this is one of those where you just want the transfer to be over the line if it is really, really legit. So enough said on that one. I think this one is gonna sting a little bit because this is about Thomas Partey. This is a potential, outgoing from the club. And the reports are suggesting that not buying, sorry, Barcelona are in for him on a free. I don't think Thomas Partey is finishing Arsenal. I think everyone would agree that when he's available, he's absolutely one of our best midfielders. There's a lot of attributes that he has. He plays more than one position, which is hard to find. It's hard to find and hard to do, especially playing those positions at a very high level. Plays that number six, plays that number two, and he can step into defense. So I think Arsenal would do well to try and tie him down for another 2 years. I think he's a bridge midfielder that we keep irrespective of who we're bringing in. Because I think that you're going to need him, especially if we want to go for the types of trophies that we want. Man City did that. You always need to have quality players that can step in. So we're not about, depleting the squad. We're about strengthening the squad because it's exactly what our rivals are going to be doing. Chelsea are going to pull out the bag and grab another player or two or three or five. Man City are going to do the same. And heck, we hear that they're already signing players. Liverpool, the news are already going. They won the league and they're going to strengthen. So, I don't think Arsenal will be doing themselves any, favors at all to let Thomas Partey to go. And I think, for the money that it is, considering that it's a player that you're potentially going to have to pay, 80 million upwards to get a similar type player, I think the smart money here is to keep him in Arsenal. So we'll see how that goes as well. Um, the big one, right? Let's talk about the big one. It's been all over the news. Viktor Gyökeres, right? We saw him play in the Champions League. We got a close-up look at it. Him, he's a beast, right? He definitely is. He's strong. He's clinical. Now, this is the one that if he lands in Arsenal, will hit the ground running. I heard news today that there was a bid that was rejected. I don't know how true that is, but he's a player that I would like, as well. And they say that we're leading the pack, for Viktor Gyökeres for Sporting. So I like him more than Sesko, if I'm honest. But let's just see. Let's see how that goes. And for me, I think all of this just highlights what's potentially happening at Arsenal, the culture that's been built in Arsenal. I was hearing David Raya talk about, how a sit down with Inaki Kana turned his season around after an indifferent performance. And hey, I'm not exactly a David Raya fan, but I do love to hear sort of the behind the scenes on the players. It gives a little bit of an understanding about the character of the players. And you're going to need character to win the Premier League, especially when you've got that monkey on your back, for such a long time, coming close and not getting it done. You need a collection of so many things just to get it done. So I love hearing those stories and shout out to Andreas Berta. He's coming, and I hope that this vision of the kind of players that we're going for, because all of these players for me are not bench warmers, are players that can come in and make an impact. And that's exactly what Arsenal need in this transfer window and into the season. So, guys, this is where you come in. Gyökeres, Sesko, who's your guy? Who are you looking at? Drop your take in the comments, as well. I'd love to hear from all of you. And guys, that's a wrap. That's a wrap on this episode of Transfer Chaos. Maybe I might call it Transfer Chaos. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. The window is open, the madness is real, and guys, I appreciate all of you for watching the video. If you made it to this point, hit that subscribe button, share this video with other Gunners as well. I try and bring you how I feel about the transfer stories, who's really going and who's not, who, we think will be a great fit for Arsenal as well. So until the next one, you take care of yourself and come on, you Gunners.